Hello, folks, and welcome back to Global. This is the 2022 Loeb Fellowship Alumni Study Tour. It's a kind of pandemic era adaptation that gives us an at-home entree to Loeb curated visits to 4 cities and plenty of opportunity to chat. So no passport, no COVID test necessary. Been asked to tell you that we have applied for AIA CEU credits. And people can get approval. They're going to send out an email to participants to inquire about getting credit. But for now, we go on to Amsterdam with Michiel van Iersel. He's a Loeb Fellow from 2019. He's co-founder and partner of Nonfiction, and Tracy Metz, Loeb Fellow from 2007, director of the John Adams Institute. I'm also happy to announce that Tracy is working on a new podcast in Dutch about water, and that's going to launch on World Water Day, March 22nd. So she is forever riding the crest of the Dobel curve. Tracy and Michiel are going to take you on a tour of their hometown. They took an hour-long canal boat trip, meeting interesting people and discussing some of the urgent developments shaping Amsterdam. And I have assured Tracy that there are going to indeed be plenty of questions for the panel that she and Michiel will be leading. So you can type yours into the chat at the bottom of your screen, and we will definitely leave some dedicated time for a Q&A at the end. Tracy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Delighted to see you again and delighted to be back with all our Loeb pals in spite of the pandemic. The pandemic just cannot keep the Loebs down, so that is a wonderful thing. We decided that since Amsterdam is a city of water, the canal's in the center of the city, that would be a wonderful vehicle for us, for Michiel and myself, traveling through the city and meeting a number of interesting people to talk about the issues confronting Amsterdam as we move forward in the new millennium. We met a number of interesting people along the way, and I will pass it to Michiel to introduce our speakers in the film and also our co-panelists after the film.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tracy, and hi, everyone. Good to see some of you. Yeah, indeed. So buckle up for a boat ride, which will last roughly 50 minutes, I think, which will actually take us from Tracy's home, where you see her sitting right now, to my home on the other side of the city. And we're going to take it nice and slow. So we'll be slowing down after the roller coaster ride of London. This is going to be at a much slower pace. We'll have plenty of time to look at the city. I know a lot of you have visited it. It's the kind of city that most people seem to like. Hopefully we will share some of the joy that we experience ourselves as citizens living here for a long time. But we also are inviting indeed some guests who can shed a more critical perspective or light on the city. So in order of appearance, we will start with the curator of the Amsterdam Museum, Imara Limon, who's gonna talk about the colonial past of Amsterdam. Then we'll move on to Chris Brundlet, who's joined here also by his partner, Melissa. Who will be talking about another well-known aspect of the city, which is its cycling culture. And then last but not least, we'll be talking to René Boer about a concept which he's currently developing, which he calls the smooth city, which maybe some of you would apply to Amsterdam as being this picture perfect city, but I think he's giving it a critical twist. So that's the cliffhanger for the end. And then after the screening of the movie, we will be joined by my dear friends and fellows from 2019. We shared the Dobel House together. Gina Dunlap joining us from Louisville, Kentucky today, and Andrea Reimer from Vancouver in Canada. So happy to have all of you with us. And maybe without further ado, please join us for our journey. Hello, hello.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. Shall we go in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So here we are. in your house.
In my house.
Yeah, in the entrance area of your house.
Yeah.
Well, as people can probably tell, it's quite a special place here, but maybe we can first go inside and you can tell us a bit about where we are.
So, of course, this doesn't look much like it did in 1686, because these houses, actually the canal houses, were quite bare. Tall ceilings, beams. People didn't have much furniture. They didn't have many clothes. So you see in the old master paintings that these canal houses were actually pretty empty for our feeling. But in the middle of the 19th century, people started getting not only rich, but also ostentatious. And in 1870, the owner of this house built this interior like a box in a box. It's like a Russian Matrushka doll.
Yeah.
And when we renovated, you still find spaces between the walls of 1870 and the walls of 1686.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And of course, as an American, I love living in a place with all this tangible history.
Exactly, yeah. So historically, I think this part of the canal area is the place to go for the rich and famous, where they built their canal houses back in the days. But still, I think it's mostly occupied by, well, banks, hotels, but also people like you who live their lives here.
Yes. Still, Amsterdam has been able to hang on to regular inhabitants, not just businesses. This part of town is pretty much banks and companies. But a large part of the canal area is still really inhabited by just regular people, which I think is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And I think we'll meet a few of them today as we move along. But maybe it's nice just to quickly go on a quick tour of the house.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, and now the birds are watching over us, and like on some days there are also all kinds of public gatherings in here, right? So it's not only your private residence, but it's also semi-public.
Yeah, we call it our culture house.
Yeah.
And since you and I and our circle of friends have so many people who are working on a project, developing things, new ideas, and they need a time to tell somebody what they're working on without going public yet. And so we offer this space pro bono to a lot of people who need a place for an exhibit or for a presentation. And then to balance that out, we rent this out commercially for dinners and meetings to help pay for the culture house.
Yeah. So, and what are some of the topics that are discussed here when it comes to like the city that you live in and I live in? I know that that's put on the table here every now and then, but what's on people's minds? What are some of the urgent issues that are being discussed here and that we're going to talk about today as well?
Yeah, one of the discussions we had was the founding of something called the Knowledge Mile here in Amsterdam, which is a mile of what used to be called the ugliest street in Amsterdam. Just traffic and noise, and a group of people from the university and the University of Applied Sciences got together and said, we have so many students here with so many bright ideas, we can do a better job than this. And so they got together a plan for the Knowledge Mile, bringing business and education and young people in to really recreate this part of Amsterdam. And it's been a huge success, huge success.
And I also know that, let's say, this space of which this building is part of, this part of Amsterdam, is also contested to a certain degree, right? Because it was built maybe at the expense of other people that couldn't share in the riches of the...
Yeah, that is true. That's something that you didn't hear people talk about very much until recently. Thank heavens the subject is finally out in the open. This house was built in what was called Amsterdam's Golden Age. And the Amsterdam Museum was the first institution to say, we're not going to call it golden anymore. For millions of people, it wasn't golden at all. It was great suffering. And the richness, the riches that were accumulated here were only accumulated at the suffering of many other people from other parts of the world, be it as slaves or in their in countries that were colonies of the Netherlands. So I thought that was a brave step, and this issue of the colonial legacy of the Netherlands and how it impacted the city we live in now, how visible it still is once you open your eyes and see it. I didn't for a long time. It took somebody else to point it out to me. And now, of course, you can't not.
Yeah.
Hello, Imara.
Hello, Tracy.
Hello. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Imara Limon. I'm a curator at the Amsterdam Museum, and we are here in the courtyard of the Amsterdam Museum, right in front of the Golden Coach.
What an amazing bit of folklore this is.
It is amazing.
What is it?
It's very
and why
shiny.
Is it here? It's very shiny. Yeah, it's like this big earring in the middle of the courtyard.
Yes, it is here for a special occasion for Amsterdam Museum's major exhibition on this subject, and we have this object on loan from the Royal Collections. And we see now this object, it's a centerpiece, and in all the rooms around this courtyard there's also a major exhibition on different themes around the Golden Coach.
But what is the issue with the Golden Coach? Why is it here?
Well, the coach was gifted in 1898 to Queen Wilhelmina, right before she became the Queen of the Netherlands. She was very young at the time, almost 18 years old. And today, this coach is still being used by the royal family in... oh ja, nu moet ik dan nog even denken. Hoe zeg je dit? Vandaar mijn script.
Yeah, the royal family still uses this coach every year.
Yes.
Yeah, for a specific occasion, eh?
Yes, on Princess Day especially, but also for different ceremonies, weddings, and those kind of events.
Weddings, you have to get in and out of this coach in your wedding dress?
Yes, you do. It's quite high. But it's possible.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I've never seen that. I'd love to see that.
Yes.
But there is another issue about this coach.
Yes, this coach, it was made so in the 19th century, and at that time Amsterdam was still a major colonial power in the world, and you can see all these different symbols and icons on the coach. So it is about Amsterdam, it's about the Netherlands as a nation, but it's also about the colonies. You can see references to different colonial subjects, like people who lived in the colonies, who are bringing an offer to an allegory of a white woman who's in the center of this side panel. And those paintings they're painted by Nicolaas van der Waay, who was a painter in Amsterdam and very involved in this Amsterdam network. So this was kind of an image that you see more often in the city of Amsterdam as an allegory, and with the people as subjects representing the colonies and how the hierarchies that are connected to this. You can also see that very well.
And the Golden Coach was restored recently?
Yes, quite recently.
And of course these panels were also restored. This is history, but it's also a painful history.
It is a painful history, and if you combine this history with a royal ceremony or even a national ceremony during Princess Day, it becomes quite painful because it makes this past become alive again, and uncritically using this in a ceremony has become quite problematic. There have been lots of protests. Activists have been saying that this should be into a museum, should stay in a museum and not activated again and again by the monarchy as a symbol of enduring colonialism.
Mm-hmm. The Amsterdam Museum, where you're a curator, was the first, to my knowledge, to say, well, why do we talk about the golden age here? It wasn't golden for everybody, by far, so we're not going to call it the golden age anymore.
Correct, yes, the golden age is such a phenomenon, of course, worldwide, with the Dutch masters, wonderful paintings, but somehow, if we continue and reproduce these narratives of the golden age and the wealth that Amsterdam gained, it it ignores all the painful past and sorry, ik was even afgeleid. We gaan even dit stukje opnieuw.
Yeah. Shall I ask the question again?
That's okay, I can start.
Okay.
The Golden Age was such a phenomenon worldwide of Amsterdam and the wealth that it gained. But if we continue and reproduce this narrative of Amsterdam as a colonial power, we ignore the negative sides of this and all the wealth that was, of course, gained through the territories that Amsterdam took, and the people that were the victim of this, people, their lands, and
their labor,
especially,
their lives,
and their lives, yes. And now that we look more and more critically into this side of the colonial history, we cannot continue to just reproduce the Golden Age as a narrative. So we want to just call it the 17th century. It was just a period in time in which many things happened with many effects for different people.
Yeah. Many institutions are now looking more critically at this period. The Rijksmuseum, for example, just had its first major exhibition on slavery.
Yes.
And this one with the Golden Coach. How is Amsterdam investigating its painful colonial past? Because it's a subject that is now everywhere. For years we didn't talk about it, now it's everywhere.
Very much, and you can see it in things like the Amsterdam mayor just before the summer. There were formal apologies for the role of Amsterdam in the colonial past, in slavery, in human trafficking, the trade in people. How do you say that in English?
Yeah.
But yes, so these kind of things are symbols, because Amsterdam is a city that has done these apologies, while on a national level there have been no formal apologies yet. So that makes the research of what happens in Amsterdam, I think, is a basis and a foundation that the city municipality has been diving into, as well as institutions. So you can see it popping up in different institutions, different movements. Yes, and it's all happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Exciting time. One of the big movements that has been going on for now 10 years already, and one of the first to really bring this into our time, is the movement Kick Out Black Pete. Mm-hmm. And Black Pete is the helper of the Christmas man, as we call him. In America, we call him Santa Claus. Is this part of that same reckoning?
I believe it's all very connected. This idea of people and how we relate to each other nowadays, you can be represented in this racialized character of Zwarte Piet. And all the ideas of inclusion, exclusion, they're represented in tradition, as well as in museum collections, as well as in the way that municipality deals with different people today. It's even related to ethnic profiling by the police. It's all connected, and these demonstrations, they are more and more intersectional and connected with all these issues, not even about race and gender and cultures, but especially about the role of everyone in society and how you can participate. And I think that is this turn that's happening right now in the Netherlands as well, but globally.
Final question, yes, relating to the Netherlands and Amsterdam. Are we making progress?
At the moment we are, but we should never be too optimistic about it. We can see what's happening with national governments becoming more right-wing internationally, and at the same time there is a progress, but it's a balance, a tricky balance.
Well, thank you, Imara.
Thank you so much.
And I think today what we would like to do is to just go out, explore the city a little bit, starting from your home, traveling to my home on the other side of town, and along the way we'll meet some people and we'll be discussing some of these issues.
What a great idea.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Wat een prachtig ding, wat een feestje. It's so special seeing the city from the vantage point of a boat.
Yeah.
I bike over this sluice now virtually daily, and do you think I ever stop to think about what it is?
Yeah.
And now I see it as a really powerful piece of infrastructure. I'm amazed. Isn't it funny how different the city looks from the water, too?
It is, huh?
All these places that I pass daily, you hardly even recognize them. It's such a different point of view.
It's the mayor's official residence, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Does she still have, yeah, I think she also has a house outside of the city.
She has a house outside of the city, and I think she decided to rent out her previous house.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, and I think, you know, given the way prices have shot up in Amsterdam, astronomical,
Yeah.
she'd never be able to buy a house again once she's no longer the mayor.
Yeah.
So I think she has every right to make sure that there is a life after being the mayor of Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the housing crisis is huge, eh?
It is, yeah. I experienced it myself when I had to buy a house just recently, and I was lucky enough, again at the expense of others, to find myself a nice new home, which is a former social housing unit, mm-hmm. Which my partner and I got to purchase. So that's wonderful, but I mean, obviously it means that other people are squeezed out of the city, can no longer afford living here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Netherlands are very proud of their social housing tradition,
Yeah.
rightly so, but we seem to have lost it along the way. There's not been enough social housing built for many years now, and also the market has gotten a huge say in the amount of housing that we're building.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they only build housing which for them is lucrative. So high rents, high sale price. And one thing that has really, really shocked me is the extent to which foreign investment funds have been able to get a grip on Dutch housing.
Yeah. And the canal area for that matter, because we just boarded this ship in front of the Waldorf Astoria.
Which used to be a bank.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. And I think they even built a swimming pool, like a subterranean swimming pool.
Did they really?
Which stretches across multiple homes.
Oh, I should go stay there sometime.
You should go check it out. Yeah. So while we're sailing down what is called the Golden Bend in the main canal of Amsterdam, I thought maybe it's good to just give people the basics of Amsterdam, just for those who have never been here, to give them an understanding of the size, of the history.
Good idea.
As far as we know, because we're not experts, of course, but
But we do live here.
Yeah, we do live here.
And we're interested.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that always surprises people, including myself, about Amsterdam, is how tiny it is.
It is, yeah.
It's less than 1 million people.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was even down to, I think, 650,000.
Yeah, now it's back up to 860.
8 something?
860, which is roughly the size maybe of, I think, maybe Seattle or Denver, Colorado, or like these kind of mid-sized cities in the United States.
I always think that everything in the U.S. is bigger.
Is bigger, yeah. Maybe in terms of the area that it covers, but because you can cycle from one end of Amsterdam to the other end in maybe 15 minutes.
Well,
on your
not
e-bike.
if you take Greater Amsterdam.
No, that's true.
But the historical city, it's tiny.
It is.
Yeah. I have a wonderful commute as the director of the John Adams Institute here. Our mission is to bring the best and the brightest of American thinking to the Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's what we do. And my commute is getting on my bike and driving all the way down the Herengracht to the other, from my end of the Herengracht to the other end of the Herengracht. It's the most beautiful commute in the world.
So you're the kind of person who never leaves the canal area, which is a stereotypical creature who only lives in Amsterdam.
People who are bottled
I'm also
up
guilty of that,
in the canal area.
Even though I moved out of this part of the city recently, so my commute has extended as a result of it. But what's also nice, it has a fantastic, it has actually multiple train stations. With lots of connections both within the country, but also if you want to go abroad, to Paris, to London, there's a direct connection out to London, to Berlin. I have a job in Switzerland, there's a direct connection to Zurich and Basel, for example. And then there's the airport, of course, which also gets you anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
We're super well connected.
Yeah.
And what we were talking about this morning, the connections also go down to the very smallest level of having a bike sharing system at the stations.
Yeah.
You have to subscribe.
Hugely popular.
So popular that the bikes are always all gone when you want one.
Yeah.
But they've been a huge success, and that makes it possible to move almost seamlessly from one transportation mode to the next.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe this is a good time, Michiel, to say something about all this vegetation we see alongside the canals.
As a result of another huge development.
It's
tragedy.
All these so-called gardens here are not supposed to be here at all. This is all these metal walls that you see alongside the canal have been placed there, and there's sand inside them to steady the canals before they disintegrate. Yeah, because through not just the years, through the centuries, of course, there's now much heavier traffic than there used to be. It used to be just pedestrians and carts and horses. And now we have trucks and the garbage truck and delivery trucks and heavy cars. And the canal walls have started giving way. And so all through the city you see constructions like this with metal walls with sand behind them, and people have planted flowers and plants to try to make it.
And weeds, nature striking back.
Oh, look, here's the fietsflat.
Ah, yeah.
That fantastic bit of bike parking infrastructure that I think is such a wonderful symbol of Amsterdam as a biking paradise. Except if you can find a place to put your bike in here, you'll probably never find it again.
And we'll be meeting someone here.
Yes, we're meeting Chris Bruntlet here, who works for the Dutch Cycling Embassy. And he and his wife and their 2 children actually moved to the Netherlands 2-3 years ago because they thought the quality of life here was so much better than in Vancouver, which has a high quality of life itself. Hello, Chris Bruntlet. Thank you for joining us here on the fietsflat in front of Amsterdam Central Station. Chris, you and your wife Melissa and your 2 children moved to the Netherlands not long ago for some very interesting sets of reasons. Tell me.
Yeah, well, we're originally from Vancouver, had lived there for 12 years, watched that city transform into a cycle-friendly city in a very short period of time. Came to the Netherlands in 2016, and the experience really transformed us as people, to the point where we wrote a book about those 5 weeks. And
you came as visitors?
Yes. Yeah, and the book kind of took on a life of its own. It took us around the world, promoting the Netherlands as a cycling nation, and eventually landed me a job with the Dutch Cycling Embassy, which is an organization that does exactly that. They promote Dutch knowledge and expertise and business interests in cycling overseas. So we packed up and moved from Vancouver to Delft in February of 2019, and yeah, we've been living our little Dutch fairy tale ever since.
And you actually did not get a car when you moved here?
It was a very practical decision. We'd been living without a car in Vancouver for 12 years, but that was, we weren't living completely car-free. We still were renting cars and accessing car share, but when we came here, we quickly learned that our driver's licenses weren't transferable to the Dutch driving system, and so having to retest ourselves and retake lessons, we thought we'd just give it a try and see living without driver's licenses. And sure enough, yeah, between the railway network and the cycling network, we've been able to access virtually everywhere in this country, from my son's baseball in the outer reaches of Gouda to with my job, meetings in industrial parks and other areas. So between the bike rail systems here, you can live quite comfortably without an automobile.
So it is the ideal that you had hoped it would turn out to be?
Definitely, yeah.
There must be a downside somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it
takes a lot of time.
It's one thing to come here as visitors, and we've it's another thing to come here as residents and start going to school and start working, and obviously there's bureaucracies to navigate and a new culture and a new language that have been challenging for us. But for the most part, getting around Dutch cities is an absolute dream, on foot, on bicycle, on public transport, and it makes life so much more enjoyable when you don't have to stress about how you're getting from A to B, what that costs the environment, what that costs us as a family. We really feel healthier and happier because of the mobility networks and the way the streets are designed here.
But for the Dutch themselves, this is all so completely ordinary. So I guess the Dutch are not really your audience, because they don't see how special this is.
Well, yes, it's so true. We refer to them as the proverbial goldfish in the goldfish bowl. They have no idea, what's outside.
What a great bowl it is.
And what a special environment that they live in. And the conversations we had when we first moved here with Dutch people was trying to explain to them why we would leave, majestic, spacious west coast of Canada with the mountains and ocean and come to their monotonous, crowded, little flat little country. But once we start explaining to them the quality of life that they enjoy, that their children enjoy, that their elderly enjoy, that people of all ages and abilities and economic brackets enjoy, I think a little bit of a light bulb goes off, and they understand that, you know, being able to cycle to school with my child in the morning is a pretty special thing, and it can't be done in most places in the world. And it's a product of infrastructure policy decisions that were made 40 or 50 years ago, and now they don't think of their bike lanes any differently than they do like their sewage pipes or their electrical system. They think cycling is a cultural thing when they're completely blind to the infrastructure that makes it possible. Mm. Yeah.
But we do have the Fietsersbond here, and they have a lot of criticism of the Dutch infrastructure. They say that it's very weak in many points and that bicycles are still at too much risk.
Yes.
I guess it just depends on which side you come from.
It's all relative, right? And I mean, when you look at the statistics, the Dutch cycle more than any other country in the world. There's the safest country to cycle in the world. But there's always room for improvement, absolutely. And the Fietsersbond have a job, and that's to represent the interest of their members. 30,000 cyclists, I believe they represent across the country, and trying to make the conditions better. But we do like to remind them that most countries in the world would absolutely love to have the problems that the Dutch have. And it's much bigger than safety. It's convenience, you know, parking. Try to find a parking spot close to Amsterdam Central.
It's not easy to find a parking spot here. It really isn't.
Exactly. So those are what we refer to as #Dutch problems, which are very, you know, crowded cycle paths, you know, full bike parking facilities. These are problems that most cities would love to have. They're the same problems that car-centric cities have, but they're on a much different scale, and they cost much less money to fix. And to their credit, Dutch cities are working overtime. They have teams of people that are trying to improve the conditions on a day-to-day basis, and streets are going through this remarkable transformation process where they're never at a point where they're done. There's always room for improvement in terms of safety, in terms of convenience, and in terms of getting more people comfortable on a bike, because it's while a lot of Dutch people cycle, not everybody cycles here, so there's always new demographic groups that we can attract by making the conditions even better than what they currently are.
When I'm on an overly packed bike path, the only thing I can think of to calm myself down is just imagine that all these people were not on bikes but in cars. What a mess that would be.
Yeah, and you only need to go to Los Angeles
which is where I come from. So I can compare.
But I mean, there's no doubt that, and especially in the heart of Amsterdam, riding a bike is very stressful.
It takes courage.
It does.
And flexibility and agility and all of that.
But it's a product of the success. When you have this many people cycling, and you're reliant more on social trust and social cues to solve traffic situations rather than traffic lights and stop signs and everybody staying in their lane. It feels chaotic, but you know, for the most part, it's generally quite safe and quite comfortable for everyone.
It's more fluid, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. So we
just behind Central Station here, there's an area of what is called shared space, where bicycles, pedestrians, scooters come from all directions. There are no lines on the ground, no signs, no lights. Some people find it terrifying.
Yeah.
I think mostly elderly people.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one thing we've heard is that, you know, groups of cyclists resemble starlings in that they're kind of this formation of, and from the outside it looks very chaotic, but it's actually a very carefully choreographed ballet, and there are unwritten rules and ways that people keep distance and keep safe from each other. Whereas, you know, again, if you compare it to a car-based system, it's very much like a flock of geese, where they're in formation and almost in military formation, and it feels safe, but and very orderly, but it is in fact, you know, quite dangerous because of the speeds that you're traveling at, and as soon as somebody stops paying attention, then, well, yeah, that's when lives get lost.
As you said, you work for the Dutch Cycling Embassy, and that is exporting Dutch bike knowledge to whom?
Yeah, so we get inquiries every day from cities all around the world: Sydney, Tokyo, Moscow, Stockholm, you name it, Bogota. And they come to us looking for help on the challenges that they're working on, whether it is, you know, building an entire bike network, building a protected intersection or a roundabout, improving the bike parking. improving the bike transit combination, whatever they need help with. We are able to draw from our network. We have now 80 organizations within our network. They're public and private organizations such as municipal governments, but also private consultants and engineers. And then we can bring teams of Dutch experts to them and help them work on their challenges, either through workshops, through study tours. And obviously now with COVID, it's very much virtual in that we're doing webinars and digital study tours. But we're able to now draw from 50 years of trial and error that the Dutch have been through in terms of figuring out what is best practice and helping cities avoid the error part of that equation. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. What a great story.
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Cheers.
So a lot of the urban development is happening along the water here, with whole neighborhoods going up all around us, which until recently you would not even know that you could actually live in some of these parts of the city, right? And now, bam, overnight almost.
Well, until recently you couldn't. That big white thunderbolt behind us is the Film Museum. And that was on what used to be the research area of Shell. And nobody was allowed in there except Shell personnel. And it wasn't until Shell left that this part of town was redeveloped. And now it's super popular, and the north part of Amsterdam is also really popular as a place to live. It's one of the few places where they've been building new buildings for the last several years as well.
So maybe this is a nice spot also to reflect a bit. You have a bit of a distance to the city. Like if you think about Amsterdam and maybe the coming years or even decades, like what are some of the pressing issues that you're concerned with? Like what's on your mind when it comes to this city?
One of the issues that worries me the most is the raging inequality. And I didn't think that would happen here, but it has. The difference between the haves and the have-nots, the difference between the people who can afford to buy a house and the people who can't, the people who can afford to be part of the life of the city, all the creative people, all the young people, all the new ideas, those don't come from, old white, well-to-do farts like myself who have the luck to live in the inner city. We need young people. We need new ideas, and this. It's bad for the city's future, and it's also grossly unfair. And I had expected that we would be able to do a better job of that.
Yeah. So Amsterdam is often compared to Venice, for obvious reasons: the water, the history, but also obviously mass tourism.
Yeah.
Would you say it's comparable indeed? Because you know Venice pretty well.
Yeah. It's not quite as bad in Amsterdam as it is in Venice. In Venice, the crowds are huge. You cannot walk down the street for the crowds of people in certain parts of Venice. Of course, there are always the back streets and the quiet areas, but what has really happened in Venice also is that the tourism has destroyed the normal economy of the city. Normal people can't afford to live there anymore because all the apartments are hotels or Airbnb or whatever, and there's very little employment outside the tourist industry. So I think it's been even more destructive in Venice than in Amsterdam.
It's funny because it is a big force also in this city, but I don't know anyone or hardly anyone who actually works directly in tourism or working with tourists.
No.
So it's something that is, I don't know, maybe also foreign investors who have been buying up companies and hotels and even like the canal boats. I don't know who's behind it, but it doesn't seem to be the kind of employer where you could find yourself a job.
No, that's one of the banes of tourism, is that most of it is seasonal work, and therefore it's really hard to attract people who are well educated and interested in really making a career out of it.
we're passing by this huge construction site, which, if I'm correct, is the new headquarters of Booking.com.
Oh, is this Booking.com?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew they were building here somewhere. Jeez, it is
Which was obviously hit hard by the pandemic.
Yeah,
and the
they were
lockdown,
building
so-
this huge new headquarters just as everything started to fall apart.
Yeah, so I think their revenues have dwindled. Plus, I think they're also working from home. So who knows?
Oh.
Maybe this will open as an empty building. Another empty building.
Another empty building for artists and other smart people.
But what is interesting, because this, obviously this is a private development, but right next to it is the conservatory of Amsterdam, and right next to that is the public
It's a
library.
public library.
Yeah, so rubbing shoulders here. Big corporations, public institutions, they
Yeah.
all sit side by side,
Yeah.
which I think is a great thing about the city.
I think it is too. And not that I'm that great a fan of Booking by any means.
No.
But the fact that they're all here cheek by jowl, I think too, is a great thing.
I think it's only fair to
Geschäftsdingen.
point out that well, this replica of this ship is here, which is part of a museum, which is kind of glorifying our history as a seafaring nation.
They probably wouldn't like you to think of it that way.
But that's how I interpret it. So this is the
Our Maritime Museum?
former headquarters of the Dutch Navy.
Yeah.
In the 17th century, built around the same time as your house was
Mm-hmm.
built. And I think back in those days, there were really strong ties between the wealthy merchants in the city and the Navy, right? They kind of teamed up. They started this global enterprise that took them to all parts of the world where they did good things, but they also maybe stole something there, which obviously allowed them to build this wonderful city. But only recently did we start to criticize these buildings or to kind of question
To think about the story,
Yeah.
the narrative that was being told there. Yeah. And then once people start asking these questions, you can't help but wonder, why didn't I think of this myself?
Yeah.
Why didn't I stop and realize what that all these riches in the canal area came from somewhere? And at what expense? And whose expense?
And also how it's being perpetuated into the present and into the future, maybe even. Right? It's not only something that happened in the past, because that's the easy way out to say,
Yeah.
you know, these were our ancestors, and, you know, I'm not guilty of any of that. No, you're not personally guilty, but you carry a certain responsibility to at least try to come to terms with it, or to, you know, become more aware of it, and make sure that you not repeat the same mistakes or cruelties that were committed in the past few centuries. So I think we came a long way, but we still have a long way to go as well.
Yeah.
So big question, with rising water levels, and I mean, we've been watching the news, we see what is happening in other parts of the world. People tend to think of Amsterdam and the Netherlands, like what's in the name, the Netherlands, right? The country that
The
is
Low Countries.
below sea level.
Yeah.
That we must be suffering from all of that we're kind of at the lowest point on the planet. So what's
Everybody
happening?
thinks we have a suitcase full of extra underwear and the family photo albums behind the door, ready
Yeah.
to run when the,
And
when
is
the
that the
floods
case?
hit. No, that is not the case.
No, and why not?
Because the Dutch have organized this so well by paying taxes, by having a whole huge cast of people who are engineers and who make sure that the water is taken care of, that we just blithely assume the government is taking care of us.
Until now. Because there are
Until
some
now.
things that
It's-
even for us are unforeseen or unprecedented.
But
And so-
it's taken a long time for that awareness, because, you know, when government takes care of everything, it's wonderful that we don't have to live in fear.
Yeah. no,
But at
that's
the
true.
same time, it's also made us really lazy.
Yeah.
We've just stopped thinking about this, and it's starting to penetrate to normal people like ourselves that this might be an issue in our time. Who knew? Who would have thought?
But this water we're currently on is directly connected to some of the rivers that we've seen flooding just a few weeks ago, right, in the south of the Netherlands. So how likely is it that one day we will also fall victim to this same, like to climate change?
I think Amsterdam itself isn't that connected with the rivers. That's more Rotterdam, south of here. But we're connected by sluices to the open sea. Can the sluices, will they suffice as the sea level rises? Good question. Not necessarily.
Because maybe it's nice to discuss the fact that this place where we arrive now is also what connects us to the rest of the world in a way, right? Because from here, I think the ships would sail off to
all over the world.
Yeah, maybe to New York even. But for sure, Latin America was one of the important destinations. So a lot of the buildings you see here all along the water are named after South American cities or countries. So there's Brazil, there's Argentina right here, which is a brand new building that is mimicking this, like it's an historical, I don't know, pastiche. But this is a hugely popular residential neighborhood by now, and it used to be...
Used to be just warehouses.
Yeah, warehouses.
And dark and not a very nice area to bike through in the middle of the night.
No. And now it's all nice and clean.
It's all been sanitized and civilized.
Like once it reached that status, I finally decided to move here. Right now it was ready for me. But this neighborhood I think is a really nice example of a mix of both homes owned by people and then market rent homes, apartments, and then social housing. So I think it's maybe 1/3 of each.
Yeah, that's pretty ideal.
Yeah.
That's pretty ideal.
And we're about to meet a friend of mine, activist, urbanist, curator, critic, / lots of other things.
A multi-talent.
Multi-talent. Also very outspoken when it comes to how this city is developing, René Boer.
Yeah.
And he'll be guiding us around this neighborhood, and he's going to talk to us about what he calls the smooth city.
The smooth city.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not meant entirely as a compliment.
Let's see. We all like a bit of smoothness every now and then.
Every now and then, but not all the time.
So René, we've seen how this former port area has slowly transformed into more of a residential area.
Yeah.
With all these big blocks behind us. And I think you consider this to be part of a larger development that you see all across the city. Maybe you can talk a bit about it.
Yeah, so I think what is interesting, what you might see in this film today is like a picture of Amsterdam that is quite perfect, right? So with all the canals and the boats and like the historical housing, the social housing, the bikes, all the greenery, the blue skies today. And I think this kind of perfect image of Amsterdam is something that is not a natural given. I think if you, for example, would have come here like 30 years ago, it would have been radically different. So the inner city was completely in shambles. 1 in 2 houses was like either abandoned or in really bad shape. This entire area was like abandoned docklands. Part of like all these buildings were abandoned. Many of them were like half occupied. There was a lot of social problems around, both in the inner city as well as here. So I think like if you look at this Amsterdam of 30 years ago, it was like a radically different kind of Amsterdam. And if you look at it now, everything is like being polished, made perfect, and completed and finished. And we started to call that the smooth city. And so that is kind of a condition that is slowly proliferating around Amsterdam. So the entire city becomes this perfect mirage of itself, this smooth city.
Mm-hmm. And is that only an aesthetic phenomenon? Is it only what things started to look like, or is it also does it go deeper than that?
Yeah, I think so. It also has like a socio-economic relation to it, in the sense of that, like. Let's say the return of the middle classes to the city. You have to imagine that Amsterdam was not popular at all as a place to live or to move to until the mid-90s. So people are still leaving Amsterdam until 1994, and only then the middle class started to return to Amsterdam and started to look for nice homes to live in, and only then they started also to demand this maybe kind of loft living, and these kind of buildings were built in the decades after that. And also with these like middle classes moving from the suburbs back to the city, they also started to demand suburban qualities, so like predictability, safety, control. I think this was like a main driving force behind the smooth city.
So René, you've taken us to this spot which I think most people would not associate with Amsterdam. So where are we?
Yeah, so we're still very close to the quay where we just came from. And I think, yeah, this is another example of how Amsterdam is becoming this very smooth kind of environment. And I think you can notice that also like in the kind of urban design and the kind of materials that are being used, that in no way allow people to intervene in the urban environment or relate themselves to it or stay here. So the only thing they can do is process their own body into their own homes and live and leave again. So there is no way that people can claim or appropriate the urban environment and be part of that together. So it's a very individualized kind of urban experience also.
Yeah. At the same time, if you look at the scale of these buildings, this is what you would nowadays see all around the city, right? This is really the supersized version of Amsterdam. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, it's very difficult because on the one hand, I think this kind of urban environment doesn't allow for new forms of collectivity, for shared forms of urban living. But on the other hand, we also have this massive housing shortage. So we also need large buildings. We need efficiency to become climate neutral, for example. So these are like very important challenges. So we cannot escape the fact that we have to build also in this way. But we also need to think about like how can we introduce new forms of collectivity and create urban environments that allow people to stay and share space together. So yeah, these challenges, we need to find a way to combine them, I think.
So is there an alternative to the smooth city? Is there a way to balance some of these forces that you've been describing? On the one hand, the scaling up of the city, and at the same time the need for intimacy and for social life.
Yeah, I think what is an interesting development right now in Amsterdam is the new pilot projects in housing cooperatives that allow people to come together as a group and like build buildings themselves, but do it together and make sure there's also like collective facilities, collective gardens, shared spaces, cafes that you can develop and use together. So I think that's a very promising development. There are now 2 pilot projects and they're going to scale it up. So there's going to be 14 more projects in the coming years, which is like affordable housing for thousands of people. So I think that's a very promising kind of development. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So and even in this very smooth part of Amsterdam, there seem to be alternatives.
Yeah, exactly. So we're often criticizing the smooth city, but I think we also have to acknowledge that there is still gaps and cracks in the city where things can still blossom, and I think this is one of them. It's really beautiful place, the Wilhelmina Dock. It's also on the same quay where we were just talking before. But what is interesting that this place was squatted or occupied a long time ago, and then later on developed into studio spaces for artists, and still also new generations find space here. So actually a friend of us opened a small art space just behind us called Mistral. And a great place for contemporary art and a place to meet each other in the middle of the smooth city. So I think it's really interesting how also new generations still find opportunities in Amsterdam to open up new spaces and bring people together in new ways. So I think that is still possible. We have to acknowledge that.